welcome to another episode of RecTalk. Today we have Juniper's very own Paul Nightingale. Paul, how you doing? Thanks for coming down.
I'm good now, thanks for having me. Appreciate coming down. It's nice to get the opportunity to do something different. Weeks are manic, so actually to step away and do something a bit interactive and a bit different.
Get a bit of time off the phones, isn't it?
That's exactly it. Like literally, if I can just put the phone down for a little bit and come in and just have a face-to-face rattle and have a decent time, then it's all good.
Good. But you used to be in front of a mic anyway, aren't you?
Yeah, for all my sins. For quite a few years, I've worked in the comedy industry and drag industry. Not in drag, so I'm not going to crack the heels on. Don't worry, I've not bought some.
That's disappointing. I was really
I was putting the coffee down ready. Tell me more.
That's it. Episode 2, stilettos and heels. We're bringing it down to
Paula Nightingale.
This is it, Paula, bringing it back. I ain't even got the hair to flick back. That's the problem. I can't even put sass into it. Yeah, just giving it that and flaking the chin. Fantastic. But yeah. Comedy-wise, I've been doing that for 10 years or so yeah, I'm used to standing in front of a crowd. It's the most arrogant thing ever, though. You're standing in front of a mic, and before you even spoke, indirectly you're saying to people, I'm going to make you laugh. And it's, yeah.
Go on then, tell us a joke.
No, it's not going to happen. That's the worst thing ever. If people are going to tell us a joke. It's, yeah. But yeah, it's good fun. I'm used to being in front of the mic. Not necessarily in this intimate setup. But yeah, good fun. Let's roll with it. And let's have...
Cool, yeah. So we've got you on today because we want to talk about apprenticeships and the
pros and cons, I suppose.
Yeah, the pros and cons. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah. Sell us an apprenticeship in recruitment specifically.
I think even before you go into that, I think it's probably important to kind of understand from your point of view why you've chosen the path of apprenticeships recruitment rather than actual mainstream recruitment.
Yeah, I think for me, first of all, I was an apprentice at 17, so my exposure to...
What was he an apprentice in?
So I was an apprentice. Yeah, plumber. Imagine me with the plumber. That'd be the campest Mario Brothers ever. I'd be worried what I'd pull out my toolkit.
Scroll all the down. Where were you? Youth Involvement Support Officer.
Connections. Oh, bloody hell.
You're a Connections guy.
I worked at Connections, yeah.
That's a blast from the past, that is.
So, yeah.
For those of you kids that don't know, I think Vivi and Nathan, I don't think you guys would know what Connections is. So basically, you'd have someone like Paul in your school giving you careers advice on a based on, what was it, like a questionnaire that you have to
do? Fast tomato, I think it was back in the day. You just answer but even then though,
fast tomato, fucking I remember that.
It come up. I was literally, it was like, because I didn't do well at school, and I didn't sit my GCSEs for reasons which meant I couldn't sit them physically because I was ill health. Yeah, that was it. I was just like, if you're not going to get me a rubber ring in that, I know it's not on the list of permitted items in an exam room, but rubber ring or I'm out of it. It's not happening. So yeah, I ended up doing RE and music. Mm-hmm. And cooking. They're the only three things that I passed at GCSE because I didn't sit the proper exams. And Fast Tomato suggested either being a fishmonger or a musician in a church.
So specifically RE.
Yeah, it was RE. He's done music and he can cook. I'm either a fishmonger.
Has come on such a long way since. It's like this data set is just so limited. Fishmonger or you need to play music in a church.
Is that not Jesus? Right? He fed people fish and bread. And
Fast Tomato, I thought you were Jesus.
We're back to the hair thing, aren't we? I'm not pulling it off. I'm not donning the long locks.
This is new school Jesus, isn't it?
This is it. Bringing it back, mod Jesus, bringing it out. Yeah, get me some chains. I don't know what the chains are for, but that's another story. Tune into that one later.
Step out of this.
Go back into that drag comedy thing.
This is it. Baby, get the heels. I brought them with me. But yeah,
but when you did your apprenticeship in this mysterious apprenticeship that you did, they were very different to what they are now. I mean, let's be honest, because you're a similar age group to us, and apprenticeships back then were basically for those who had no qualifications and had no luck. You ain't got a chance.
It was access to life as opposed to access to university, and it was very much. Ultimately, the first apprenticeship I got was business admin. So I started off working for Connections as an administrator at level 2, and it was the 13th interview I had before I even got a job. And the irony of it was Connections was helping me get the interviews. And I got none of the jobs. The first 12 I didn't get, and in the end, Connections just went, do you want to come and work for us? I was just like, and it's like, at the time, I'm thinking, what an opportunity. And I look back at it now, and I'm just thinking,
that was a pity hire.
Was it that pity? It's like, come on, let's give him a chance.
Wendy's boss was like, you need to get this kid a job. And we're like, just fucking hire him here.
We're one away from our KPIs. What can we do? Hire Nightingale. Get him in. But yeah, it was admin. And I was thinking, I like computers. I'm going to be good at admin. Hated it. Absolutely.
It's not for everyone, is it?
I love the environment. I work with some great people. And what I would say is, from careers guidance, if you like computers, admin's not the same as a computer. It's not the same as being on Xbox Live. I like technology. Let's type a letter.
I don't think kids today even say I like computers. They know a lot more about it now, don't they?
Yeah, back in our day though, you used to have like one computer in a room somewhere, like in a cupboard, and be like, "Oh, we've got IT today. Everyone watch us do."
And
this.
they'd wheel it out as well, and it always had the squeaky wheel.
Yeah,
that
just one little wheel didn't quite get to be a wheel. Yeah,
and every school had the caretaker, and I'm just thinking, why does that caretaker not know about WD-40? Why do we have to suffer the noise that squeaky wheel? It's always the small secretary woman as well with a big computer pushing it, struggling with all her might.
Pushing it up with her shoulder.
All the teachers watching. I'm not
risk
paid for
mitigation this. And security, because you'd hear it going, wouldn't you? If one of the kids were trying to rob it, you'd be like, that distinctive squeaky wheel.
To be fair though, back then,
someone trying to grab the TV, or the TV, or the PC, projector, or the overhead projector.
You'd need a pump truck though, wouldn't you, to nick it? That's the problem. It ain't like the Mighty Heist or anything. The kids nicking an old school computer.
Back in our day, we didn't want them.
Yeah.
Yeah, where are you going to put it?
Yeah, but we didn't want them. Like back then, if you think about it, right? If you were doing anything to do with computers, you're a freaking geek. Like, look at you on the computer. Whereas now, it's like, what? You don't know how to use a computer? You're a fucking idiot.
Yeah. It's a dial-up connection as well. The sound that the modern day people will never have the pleasure. I'm
going to use that as my ringtone.
Yeah, when it rings and then someone picks up the phone when you're just about to connect and you're like, get off the phone, I'm on the internet.
Get LimeWire as well. I remember downloading loads of shit on LimeWire.
Yeah, and BitTorrent as well, where you used to download different parts of a movie, then drop it together, and then you realise you've got one bit in the middle that's
the key point,
Tokyo version or something.
Yeah.
I did.
So you did the business admin apprenticeship then. So did you actually get through that? Because I remember back in our day, the apprenticeships were mainly just like building, plumbing, that sort of shit. Like now, there's a lot broader, isn't it?
Oh god, it's massive, and I got through it. I was kind of dragged through it, if I'm honest. And it was because my passion went there. For me, a big thing, I've got to be enthused by something to kind of get into it and commit to it.
Like drag.
Yeah, like drag. There we go again. But for me, what really kept me at Connections was it opened my eyes up to all the other opportunities available working within the sector. And that got me looking at youth involvement support work, and then that led me to moving into more young people focus. So I was frontline working with young people. And I think for apprenticeships and things like that they have changed massively, but it's not always about that first step you take.
How so? How have they changed? Because again, like we're of that generation, and a lot of hiring managers are of that generation where apprenticeships were like, I mean, I still call them modern apprenticeships, and they're not modern apprenticeships anymore. They're just called apprenticeships now, right? Yeah. And because there was that whole rebrand piece around being called modern apprenticeship. Yeah. Like this is, you don't have to kind of hire a graduate anymore, and you've got these skilled individuals that are looking for opportunities and stuff. So how has it changed? Because there are people out there that still see apprentices as like, well, you couldn't get a real job kind of thing, unfortunately.
And I think that the way in which it's changed is to pass an apprenticeship is a lot more difficult these days.
Yeah.
So the way in which it's the way in which the standards and frameworks have been developed. The old school one, it was very tick box. You'd go in, your assessor would go, show me a letter. You'd go, they wouldn't even check if you'd spelt right on it or laid it out right. They'd just go, he's done a letter, he's competent, and tick. So it was very much tick, tick, tick. Someone would sign at the bottom and you'd get a certificate. And you'd be like, yeah, I'm qualified level 2 business admin. But when you look at the competencies, the abilities, the skills, it weren't there. So you had all these people who were qualified, supposedly qualified within a specific discipline, but actually all they'd done is work their way through a process to get to the end of it. So when they changed, all the apprenticeships now, there's an endpoint assessment on it, and the best way I can, it's a bit like a driving instructor. So you have your instructor that does the lessons with you. Then you go to the test centre, and it's an external person that's coming in and checking the abilities and competencies, and it's within their best interest to fail them, because we've got to pay again for that endpoint assessor to come out. So the importance is on, and a focus is on making sure that apprentice is skilled, they're competent, they understand it. The pressure's on the provider to make sure that they're working with the employer to get them to a skilled end point where they are being signed off.
That's fair enough, and I understand that, because there's regulations and there's stuff that's coming in to try and support that sort of scheme, right? But I guess your challenge is always going to be your candidate, right?
Yeah.
Your actual apprentice, because in theory, a lot of these guys are school leavers. I know when I left school, I was literally like, I'm going to be a footballer, And then when I got booted off the team, I was like, well, I guess I'm not going to be a footballer then, am I? And
Army it is.
Yeah, well, it was there, wasn't it? Because that was very limited in my options. Because I took, I mean, one of my, I think it was my French or my geography GCSE. One of them I took piss. Me and all the lads went to the park and we got drunk, and then we went and did our GCSEs after.
It went well then for you, did it?
I mean, I did all right.
I mean, if you got A star, absolutely.
Yeah, it's like, weirdly, when I'm drunk,
we know
I'm
Mad
fluent in
Dog
French.
2020 is the key to a successful exam.
And if you're an apprentice, you need to listen to no, so I think it was like my geography exam or something like that, and I got like a D or an E or something like that, because that was all coursework heavy anyway, right? Yeah. So me going into an apprenticeship where they were like, you need to now learn a new skill to go and do X, Y, or Z, that's the level of candidate that a lot of the times you're dealing with. Now there's exceptions to the rule, as there always is, right? You'll always have somebody who's really, really switched on.
Yeah, and I think that there's a place for every route, and I think with apprenticeships it's the same as any other job. There's only so much you can do prior to someone starting an apprenticeship to kind of safeguard that process. A lot of it within recruitment is that there's no special kind of process or kind of sequence to nailing it. You can only ever go with what you know based on your skill set. And I think the beauty within recruitment is it's twofold. So you've got me looking at them from my angle, and then you've got a recruitment company looking after them. So it's almost like you've got two fail safes, and sometimes it may go wrong, but fundamentally I'm a firm believer that if you've got a young person that already feels on the back foot, they already feel, because they haven't gone to uni, even though they don't need to. You don't need to go to uni to be successful, but societal pressures and viewpoints out there. If your mum's not got a picture of you above the mantelpiece in a cap and gown, you're not successful, and that's absolute cosh. Like, it's rubbish. But a lot of young people who get given an opportunity that engages them and it's what it wants to do, they will grab hold of it. And that they will run with it because it's an opportunity that they didn't anticipate for themselves.
That's fair. Do you think it's fair though to say? I mean, there's certain apprenticeships where you do need to go through the apprenticeship route, right? So take a software developer. I wouldn't hire a software developer with no experience whatsoever.
Absolutely.
I absolutely would hire a software developer who's on an apprenticeship course, because it's like, okay, case in point,
you've got some skill set there.
Yeah. Whereas with recruitment, if I'm hiring somebody with no experience, I can hire somebody with no experience without them going through the apprenticeship route. So why would that be and that's not just kind of just recruitment.
No, absolutely.
Take business admin as well. I don't need somebody to do a business admin apprenticeship to hire them as a business admin, because if they're learning from the ground up, I can teach them what they need to know specific to my business to get them to do the job, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But I also think there's such a huge thing at the minute about retention of staff and people that jump from pillar to post, and somebody offers them the extra bit of money and they're bouncing, they're moving around and stuff like that. And within recruitment, which is a field we both work in, so many times you hear people coming over, they've got bad habits, they've got things that don't fit within our vision, the way in which we run as a companies, and it's just not working out. So you hear that enough, and then you hear we've got graduate schemes, companies run graduate schemes, and we take on 12 people a year from university because they're graduates, they've got a degree, and the expectations there that they're going to work. Some do, but a lot of feedback has been you get some that actually think because they've got a degree, rightfully so, to get a degree takes some focus, but that doesn't actually mean that you're going to be good at the point you move forward.
I suppose what it proves, though, with degrees, a lot of the point of kind of having the degree is being able to demonstrate that you can stick something out for that period of time.
Yeah.
And achieve something at the end of it. So with an apprenticeship, I suppose the difference is that you're asking somebody to do that whilst they're working.
Yeah.
And they haven't had that proven success, have they, in terms of they haven't got the degree at the end of it. Unless you're hiring somebody who's completed an apprenticeship, at which point you can say, yeah, okay, well, this person's seen it through.
Yeah, I think that's fair, but I think there's the other side of it is the apprenticeship route is probably a more gentle move from the educational establishment and the education world into the working world. You think about all our first jobs, like, I mean, yours is obviously as an apprentice. So
I was in a fruiters. No, my first job was working in a fruiters at 14. And it's still to the day one of my favourite jobs. Like back then, it was okay to get touched up by the old biddies that were coming in to get the fruit on a Sunday.
So glad you said old biddies.
Yeah. No.
I was wondering where that was going.
It wasn't okay. I don't know who told you it was okay. It wasn't okay. Even then, it wasn't.
But I used to think like the nanas would come in, get the fruit, and pinch your bum at the till, and you'd be like, "Fantastic!"
And you couldn't avoid them.
I used to make sure I was on the till every week. I was like,
tying your shoelaces.
Look at this one, Brent.
What do you mean I'm in the warehouse? Not today. I'm on the till because Brenda's coming in. But yeah, no, that was my first job at the fruit.
You think about the level of immaturity when we first leave school and you go into your first few jobs. It takes a while to bed into that kind of working culture and kind of being like. For a lot of children that have, like me, possibly ADHD, just like a dog off a leash syndrome. It's like, what do you mean I don't have to ask to go to the toilet? What do you mean I get to just get up and go off whenever I want? Like this is amazing. Like this is life.
Yeah.
And then you kind of push the boundaries a bit too far and get sacked a handful of times, and before you know it,
I think there is that, and I think it's professional maturity as well. I think you can get a lot of people that leave school that have a head above the years kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But professional maturity only comes from experience and opportunity and understanding that. And I think going back to that, I when I worked at the college, I had a student who was on work placement, and then they kept going off sick, and it turned out they just simply didn't think they could go to the loo when they were on placement. This was work experience, and they didn't feel confident enough within the workplace to ask to go to the toilet. So, and it takes something like that, and you just go,
that guy was
"Oh
dumb."
wow,
Yeah,
wow, taking them down, dumb." Or
I need to take a week off. Why? I haven't had a shit in a week.
Water infection everywhere. But no, like that was just an example of me. That specific student
was an idiot.
No, you can go an idiot. I'm going to come at you. I'm going to take you down. Bring you back for the young person. But if they don't know and they're so desperate to impress,
go to the toilet.
And they're desperate to go to the toilet. If they're trying to impress their employer as a young person, then
you're not doing it by taking a week off, though, are you?
Right. Okay. No, on that then, and I get you. You're going to defend the kind of the idiot, but like,
you go idiot. I go professionally immature.
The professionally inept individual.
The professional idiot.
That was one case. I don't feel like I'm repping it.
In that scenario, and there'll be other scenarios that are not as similar as that, but like in a loose way of kind of like, because again, we've had it where we've had.
Well, that being said, I mean,
who sit there on their phone and you're like, "What are you doing?" And they're like, "Oh, no one told me I wasn't allowed to sit on my phone." He's like, "No, you're not allowed to sit on your phone. Just don't sit on your phone for an hour and then look up and be like, oh, it's lunchtime already." Yeah. So who's letting this person down? Like, whose job is it to inform this individual or this child that when you go into the working world and the professional world, some things are allowed, some things aren't, and you need to go to the toilet, go to the toilet.
I think there's a mix. Like, I attend a lot of events with employers and things like that, and I do find myself getting quite infuriated by employers that think it's 100% schools, colleges, parents' responsibility. I think if we go back in the day, it was like that. It takes community to raise a child, doesn't it? And I think if we go back to that, there's a bigger picture to developing young people into competent professionals, and there's a lot of people that play a part in that. And I think I have sat in meetings and employers going, "We're getting people come through, and they're not ready. They're not ready. They're not ready." But at 16. Who is ready? Who is ready? And actually,
I wasn't ready at 26.
What does ready look like? Is it ready to do a job, because if they were ready to do a job, they wouldn't be doing an apprenticeship potentially, or if they were ready to do a job, they'd be applying for the job at a higher. These are young people.
It's understanding, I suppose, that they're an apprentice and on an apprenticeship for a reason. There's a journey this person's going on, which includes professional maturity and personal maturity alongside that. Yeah.
No, but I think you've hit the nail on the head. Is that they're an apprentice, so therefore they're on a learning journey still in terms of where they need to be. That being said, I mean, look, I think having had a handful of apprentices and actually having consultants who we have ended up putting on apprenticeships, even though they weren't, they didn't come through the apprenticeship route for us. One of the things I would have to challenge is the content that is normally delivered by
some of the course content's a bit
like recruitment's a good example actually. The history of recruitment. So that's taught in the course content. I can tell you now, I've been running a recruitment business for 6 years. I've been in recruitment for like 10. I don't know what the history of recruitment is.
Yeah.
And there's a level, I think, of, and if you were to take away the fact that that's one module on its own, and I'm not saying that that's like the entire content, because there is some good stuff, right? But that module on its own, for me, a candidate or an apprentice development would be better served being in the real world than having to sit there and listen to 2-3 hours worth of lectures on the history of recruitment, and then having to do a case study on it and how it's changed from when it started in whenever. So Jesus, I guess, was the earliest recruiter, wasn't he?
Don't know.
12
you're asking me, aren't you? Yeah. Jesus over here.
Yeah. You run the course content. You tell us.
Yeah. So do you know what I mean? But that'd be like if you look at kind of where recruitment was to where it is now. That I mean, there's an element of relevance. Yeah. Okay. But
it's knowledge is power, isn't it? Ultimately, you never know when you're going to get to a situation where you've got to look back at something. And I think
how long have you been in recruitment?
Me, on and off 15 years.
Okay. At what point have you had to explain to a client the history of recruitment?
Not had to explain, but actually when working with a client which works in... You talk about old school, new school. Recruitment's evolving as a whole. And you've got people that are moving, I don't say moving with the times, but people that are modernising their approach to recruitment. And you've got companies that are still old school, to the book, suit, boot, briefcase, that old school. And no, but there's still people out there who walk around, and that works for them. And I think the term history of recruitment makes it sound like a big history lesson. We're going to look at day one in recruitment, and this is where it starts. But I think
Jesus was chosen.
Yeah.
He hired disciples.
Isn't the you correct me if I'm wrong on this, and Nath, I don't know if you can bring this up or not, but didn't the industry itself, the recruitment industry, start after the Second World War? Isn't that where it goes back to?
I don't know. I haven't done the history of recruitment unit, so
have you not?
I've missed the knowledge.
Now. When did the history of recruitment? When did recruitment start? I'm sure it was after. That's talking about 1653. Henry Robinson, 1653.
Addressed an account is to help link workers with employers,
which was refused by the British Parliament. Okay, yes, so no, I was wrong. I closed my business down, man. I don't know. Yeah. That was the bit. That was the thing I read. Yeah,
believe it or not,
recruitment, as we know today, was originated as a product of World War II. It came about from the gaps in the workplace, resulted from the call of men to join the war effort. So a lot of vacancies emerged, and then people started going like, "Oh, I'll help you find somebody," and started charging for that service, and there became kind of the industry that we know today.
So I guess the earliest recruitment campaign.
You were right then.
Tick me off on that module, mate.
Boom. Signed off. There's your cert. Moving on.
So the earliest recruitment campaign would have been like the war recruitment then, wouldn't it? Really?
No, it was post-war. So it was post-war.
No, but the actual recruitment campaign would have been the getting the soldiers enlisted.
Yeah. I mean, recruitment campaigns are different though. The recruitment as an industry didn't exist apparently until after the World War.
Well, it actually existed in 1653, but they just the Brits wouldn't let us have it.
Well, anyway, in either case, but do you see the value of this?
Yeah,
nothing.
But I see.
All our viewers are switched off.
I think ultimately, if you're training somebody about different elements and
who makes the course content, because you're defending it. But
who makes the course content? It was trailblazers. So industry professionals, the whole new standards.
So a group of fucking recruitment professionals got together and said, "Do you know what these kids need to know? They need to know where it all began."
But you're taking the word history and seeing that.
To defend you for a second,
turn history into the evolution of it, or how it's evolved, and
let's defend Paul for a second, right? So you did business management.
I did management studies actually.
Management. Okay, so was all of the content of your management studies degree relevant?
Yes, I use it every day.
Yeah.
In every walk of... No, of course I fucking was.
I was going to say, you're full of it.
I was
looking
waiting
thinking,
for
he's going to play this narrative where he's like,
no.
I bring out my notes in every meeting and we just refer back.
I was going to let him die on the hill. I was going to keep pressing him until he...
I'm not that guy.
The buzz was coming and you wanted to just get under.
I'm not that guy that will sit there and be like, no, I'm going to die on this hill even though I know I'm wrong. No. I get it. I just... You're right. You're absolutely right. We're sat on the word history of recruitment.
Yeah.
But I mean, look, as a business owner,
yeah.
if I'm bringing an apprentice in to do a job or wanting this apprentice to go through a program, I really want this person to be spending time learning how to do the job effectively and well, so that when they graduate, they can officially jump in. Because otherwise, they may as well hire a graduate who's wet behind the ears and doesn't know anything, but does know the history of whatever. Do you know what I mean?
And that's where the structured
I see
approach
apprenticeships
to it.
as this should be a fast track into like
Okay,
top
so
biller mode.
you take on a trainee consultant.
Yeah.
What's your competency period? What's your measure of whether they're getting signed off or signed on or
No,
kicked
but
off?
this is the point. What I'm not doing is relying on a third party to train to support me train this person up, right? So that's what I'm saying is that I would see the apprenticeship program, as I imagine a lot of people do, as this should be a steroid injection into this person's kind of like growth of key skills and ability to recruit. And if it was sold as that, then I'll be like, yeah, fine, send me 10. Like,
and fundamentally, that's what it is. If you look at it, so companies, and this is that's been said to me, they've got 12-week plans where they have KPIs, and if they don't meet it, they don't move forward. And they've had trainees come in.
That's old school, that, isn't it?
But it still exists. It still exists.
We used to have that at phones for you. It used to be called Green by week 16.
Yeah, but with an apprenticeship, where I see, and I firmly believe it fits within recruitment, is a growth plan. If you're looking and you've got a plan of growth in your business, you bring somebody in, their first apprenticeship as a resourcer is 14 months. Mm-hmm. So from that investment, it's by the time they've completed 14 months on their apprenticeship as a recruitment resourcer, I'm going to have a competent 180 here.
Yeah, I guess, do you know the difference is though? Because having seen the content, I think the issue apprenticeship providers are always going to have is a lot of the content that you're teaching is totally different to the content that your businesses are trying to indoctrinate into their staff. So if you're talking about, okay, well, we need them to be a competent resourcer, but I think actually fundamentally what needs to happen is the apprenticeship provider needs to understand what we're trying to get and where we want our consultants to be. And that's what it doesn't do.
But because you can't because there's so many different types of businesses. Like you got to think about it, right? So you'll have some that are really focused on BD, some that are really focused on delivery, some that are really focused on kind of account management, relationship management, some that are really focused on cold, some are international focused, some are localized, some are specialists, some are generalist. Now there's so many different types and pockets that you can't have a course that kind of delivers to everybody. Otherwise, you'd have like.
But you've got to have a start point. And with any apprentice, you've got 20% off the job training.
Yeah.
That training can be informed by you as well as an employer. And that within their first month, 2 months, 3 months, they're learning throughout that. So that's where you're never going to get an apprenticeship framework that marries to how the company works. Because the apprenticeship, the framework itself just sits around the outside and it builds knowledge.
We're looking at, okay, so if you're a brickie, right, and you hire a bricklayer, right, there are going to be certain tricks of the trade that you're going to teach your apprentice in terms of how to do things, but the fundamentals are still there, right? And I think that's my point, is that the fundamentals from where you're getting recruitment apprenticeships is wildly different, I think, we've been in big corporates and we've been in boutique, right? So it's different to what is actually happening in real world. And I suppose this comes back all the way back into like GCSE level education, which is the education system relevant in today's world? Because if you're looking at
like all your core subjects, gradually you're looking at them and thinking, are they still core?
Yeah,
are they
like
still
when
needed?
they started giving you with my daughter's homework and stuff like that, she's in reception. Like, my daughter's homework is like some maths questions and stuff like that. I was like, Steve's got fucking 12 apples. I was like, he's not a fucking octopus. Why has he got 12 apples? It's just so those sort of things.
Because it's healthy eating.
Can't you hold 12 apples?
That's why Steve's got apples instead of a pizza now. You got pizza with 12 apples.
This is impossible. No man can hold 12 apples.
Yeah, it's just
this is ridiculous.
If Steve had 12 apples in a carry
The
bag,
education
right?
system is broken.
Yeah, but do you see one point? Is that there's
got to be a
nothing-
plastic bag as well. Paper bags are good for the environment. You're never going to carry 12 apples in a paper bag.
See, those co-op bags though, they're made of like seaweed.
They're vile.
They stink.
They do stink, but they're like.
But they're food bags, aren't
they biodegrade.
Yeah, so you could use them. You know,
I know.
food bins.
As you're walking down the street, like that's you walk out the shop. You think you got a free carrier. You get home, you've
And you
lost
can
your
eat them for
shopping
a
on the
healthy snack.
floor. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, it stinks.
Yeah, grim,
It stinks
grim.
bad. But yeah, I think the apprenticeship. I think when it had its framework and the Trailblazers, it had a real opportunity to kind of fast forward itself and future proof itself, and actually have sort of recruitment businesses have some input in terms of what's important to you guys.
How do you future proof a course that caters to an industry that is constantly evolving and changing?
But also within
You
itself
just can't.
differs.
Yeah, well, and absolutely, yeah, within itself differs.
And
But
you could walk down the road to another recruitment company who operates totally different to you.
No, but they don't though. This is the thing, right? Yeah, we all have our little quirks, and this takes me back to my bricky thing, right? Some bricklayers will do it in more. I don't know why I'm using a bricklayer ledger. Fuck all about bricklaying.
Did
right?
you want to be a brickie? You got.
That's what happened. Yeah, but
couldn't hold 12 apples. They're like,
That's it.
get out, mate.
He's
Just ain't laugh
he
for
got
you,
a
pal.
12 apples. He only did 6 bricks at a time.
no, exactly. But they'll have their little quirks in terms of how they mix them up, how they lay the bricks, what they do, and all that sort of stuff. However, the fundamentals are the same. Now, I can tell you from experience, having been trained at Michael Page, having gone to Mark Saturn and doing it our way, there isn't much by way of difference in terms of how we do things. It's still the same. And even people that we brought in from other recruitment agencies, fundamentally, a lot of it is the same. But there are certain little quirks that each business has. I'm not saying those quirks have to be altered within the training platform.
Yeah.
But I think recruitment hasn't really evolved as much as we think it has. It's got new tools that support recruitment, but has it evolved in the sense that the industry is totally different? Have we reinvented the wheel? No, we haven't. I would argue it's no different to what it was like in the world.
I don't think it comes down to reinventing the wheel. What I firmly believe needs reinventing is the view of the apprenticeship, not just within sector, just across the board. And it's at what point as a business do you see added value? Is it from day one? Is it from month 3? Is it from month 6? Is it 12? And it's looking at it going, okay, so an apprenticeship is an investment as a company, and it's an investment in a future vision. An apprenticeship can never be that I'm bringing somebody in and I'm expecting them to add value, and that also crosses over add value from day one.
Right, okay.
That also crosses over into normal jobs as well. If we look at normal jobs, you bring somebody into a role who's well experienced and they've got all the experience in the industry, they're never going to come into a new business and impact from day one, because they need a period of understanding. They need to see what the mission is, see what the vision is, get context of it, be able to use their skill set and their expertise to start planning and mapping forward. So by that time, it could be month 1, 2, 3, when they're really gearing up and they're ready to implement what they know.
Yeah.
And it's the same with an apprenticeship. As a company, you've got to look at where are my added value points along this apprenticeship journey.
This is my point. Is that we've got BB, Sky, and then we had all of our guys.
Yeah,
on
like as a company, we rep apprenticeships. Like
we love apprenticeships because again, for us, I mean, I didn't go to uni.
Yeah.
So my kind of educational background stopped at GCSE. So for me, I see the value in apprenticeships, and I actually see the value in giving young people an opportunity to be able to go somewhere, right? So we've got nothing against actually hiring apprenticeships. My fundamental issue is I think the
content of
has
it
to
and
be
relevance.
Yeah, I think we're in danger with apprenticeships because you've just had the Trailblazers and the new frameworks put into place.
Yeah.
What I worry that apprenticeship providers are going to sit on that for the next 10, 15 years, and the course content isn't.
It's
going
already
to
out of date.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, the reality is, right, if you are genuinely best in class and a legitimate kind of business leader in the recruitment industry, you ain't giving up your time to anybody to help them put together course content because you're busy doing the do. You're busy running your business and growing. I have a real thing about this around, like, you know, you get the business coaches and all that sort of shit. That, like, so when you got people that say, like, and this isn't an attack on you, but when you say, like,
absolutely.
oh no, we had like industry leading experts. No. What you had was people who were out of work or had time on their plate to be able to dedicate to sit down with the apprenticeship department and say, yeah, no, we'll help you put together. If they were any good at what they actually did in their industry, i.e. recruitment, they'd be running a fucking recruitment business that's keeping them that busy. They wouldn't have the time to sit down.
Though. I mean, how do you know they wouldn't have the time to sit down? How do you know they ain't retired or they haven't been bought out?
If they're retired, their finger's not on the pulse. They don't know what's going on. It's an ever-evolving industry.
So
if you've had somebody who's just sold a recruitment business and they're one of the trailblazers,
they're an absolute baller. They've got money in the bank.
They've sold it. What they do? They don't need the work, then do they? They don't need to sit down with the apprenticeship.
They want to
go travel the world. They want to spend time with the family.
Open an opportunity and. As a context, I get what you're saying. Do I agree? Absolutely not. And it's because ultimately it's that old thing, isn't it? Because on a level, what I'd put to you is if you're passionate about apprenticeships and you think there's a gap in the market, why aren't you banging on the doors of Highfield saying, do you know what? I've got value added here. I believe that I can add value because
time.
And
that's my point.
But you can't take down other people who have found time and then rip apart what they've created with their time. That's an unfair thing to do.
Yeah, you're right. It's not fair. I'm not sitting there saying I'm being fair. Absolutely, I'm not. I'm being a knob about it. But I'm being a knob about it from the point of view of...
Yeah, you want it to work.
People who can genuinely change the things like the course content specifically on in recruitment, for example, they got the time to sit down with the people who are in charge and the red tape and all the bureaucracy and the roundtable meeting. They ain't got the time to do that. They won't have the time to commit to that. The ones that will have the time and stuff, they've had their day, they've had their time. They're not the ones running businesses today. They're the ones that have grown, scaled and got out. That's no different, in my opinion, it's no different to sitting down with a property expert who made their money in the late 90s, early 2000s and is going to sit down with a bunch of 18 to 25-year-olds today and tell them about how to make money in property today, because they've had their time. That's done, and the market's different today.
That's how you feel about it from your
and
position
also,
within
negate
recruitment.
People's experience.
Yeah,
you can't just negate people's experience. If somebody's done well in properties in late 90s, early 2000s, or has done well in recruitment, you can't be like, well, your experience counts for nothing, because that's like a proper.
That goes against what you've just said. Recruitment really hasn't changed that much. It's the same thing.
I haven't said that. I've said recruitment has evolved. It's a constantly evolving industry.
How so? What's changed in recruitment
evolving industry and a constantly evolving market, and I don't think a framework that lasts for 10 years, as an example, in today's world, is the right thing to be looking at.
But what's changed in recruitment in the 10 years that you've been in?
Outreach, branding, the amount of marketing spend, the way in which candidates are...
the way in which tools. What are the actual differences in recruitment, though?
But that's what I'm talking about. So the outreach, how you reach out to candidates.
I'm kind of right down the middle there. I'm leaning to it, and yourself.
It's massively different,
because
and I think it will
branding,
continue to be different.
Think's key,
and it will continue to be different in the next 10 years, massively compared to now.
But
given the impact of social media, given the constant evolution of how marketing and digital marketing is done, take advertising just as an example. Mm-hmm. Who advertises in the fucking paper anymore?
But that's because that's moved to.
But so is that not an evolution though?
But that hasn't changed the industry.
It's still fundamentally advertising. Yeah. It's just how.
It's not, but it's not though, because it's a wider outreach. So you go from advertising your local paper to local readers to advertising on a platform that's reached out to a far and wide audience, or a targeted audience in more than just a locality. So what you couldn't do is go to the Guardian and be like, right, I want to put out a finance director advert, and I only want finance directors to open it and read it. But you can do that today. So that's evolution.
Correct, but at the same point, if that was a topic or a unit within a framework, what would you call it? You'd call it advertising and marketing.
Or the history of recruitment.
But you could go back there.
But it's no different.
It's still advertised and marketing, but it's in the present.
And it'd be no different to sending out flyers and leaflets to businesses. So you used to be able to call Royal Mail and be like, right, I want to put flyers into everyone's local papers,
and they'd like pigeon pop them or something.
And that's it. And they'd go out to all the commercial businesses. So I could say, right, I want this to go to every single FD in every single business in Westwood Business Park.
No, but you couldn't say to Royal Mail, I want this to go to specifically tech businesses and all their CTOs.
Why not?
Why couldn't you?
Because well, for starters, the fucking postie not going to go around and be like, "That's the tech business."
No, but you would still post it into that business unit, though, wouldn't you?
From the epicenter or the start point of those, surely there's an opportunity to go, these are businesses. Whether it's Yellow Pages, online, internet, you still got access to information that enables you to go forth with that process, however it looks.
The tools we have to recruit are better now.
Yeah.
But actually, fundamentally, the recruitment world hasn't changed, which takes me back to my point of the Trailblazers had a really good opportunity to create a relevant content and a relevant platform to be able to say, right, here's how we're going to future-proof ourselves for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
Because AI was a thing when Trailblazers started doing it.
It's probably been 8-9 years since it was done. So you are approaching that 10-year mark.
And this is my worry, is that are they sitting there, and as is with most government-backed nonsense, is that, oh, well, we've done it this time, so we will just leave it there for the next 30, 40, 50 years. Is there anything that says now that Trailblazers are going to come out and do another thing? And
they are being reviewed. I don't know specifically the recruitment ones, but I know we've just had 3 standards that have changed because they've been evolved. But I think it's going back to that, where does the responsibility sit? Like, if you're studying towards something, you're always going to study towards a framework or a standard. Mm-hmm. And then your wider knowledge comes from the people around you and the experience and the understanding and the observation of professionals and learning from. And what I would say is, where the apprenticeship works is when you've got somebody that comes in that's got a keen interest. They're doing the wider stuff for the portfolio, but they're sat working alongside professionals who are damn good at their job. They're teaching them best practices. They're seeing day to day a skill set that works within it, and they're learning from it. And then another one. And then ultimately, that apprentice, alongside the qualification, is going to pick up best practice from A, B, and C, and then form D, which is their way of working. And it then becomes amalgamation of skill sets, which from people that have been driving your business forward, and they can grow and evolve. So many companies you speak to now, you ask them where they started, and I think that for me with apprenticeships is always going to be the main thing. Sometimes you just got to stop and step back from the present and go, where did I start? Where was my opportunity? Who gave me the nod? Who gave me that?
Is that the biggest challenge you have then? Selling apprenticeships to recruiters or recruitment business owners? Is it that they just don't? Yeah. Well, what is it? What is the challenge you get?
I think the biggest barriers are token gesture and genuine commitment and belief, because it's good for every company to say, yeah, we've got an apprenticeship scheme. Mm-hmm. But an apprenticeship scheme is only as good as how it evolves with the business, how that apprentice is valued in the business. If you're in a business and you've got a culture that they're the apprentice and you're pointing them at the background, or you've got a culture of somebody that's going, this is our apprentice, this is where our vision is, which we're championing this person.
Do you think it's important to mention it at all? Because which is the point. So I had the interview when you arrived here. We was doing the interview, did a show around, and at no point was I like, oh, like that's BB, she's our apprentice. It was, that's BB, the content creator.
I think you did say apprentice.
No, I was upstairs. You were down here.
Oh, sorry. I thought when the lady was at the desk, may not have.
No, she was interviewing for an apprenticeship.
Right, okay.
So the point is, so she was interviewing for the apprenticeship. And then I introduced Sky and said, she's on our business admin apprenticeship.
Yes,
she went,
that is what you said.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then I took her upstairs and was like, right, they're the recruiters, blah, 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 blah. And that's BB, she's our content creator. She'll be the one you'll be working alongside, and so on and so forth. Because I didn't feel the need to go caveat that with, do you know what I mean?
I think it's how you see it.
Yeah.
I think within recruitment...
Yeah, are you proud of it, or are you...
Yeah. Are you proud of it, or are you doing it for... Like, what's your agenda? Why are you doing it? And I think... I get what you're saying. Could it be by going, this is our apprentice, you're already putting them on a back foot of competence?
Yeah, one could argue that, couldn't you?
Yeah, you could, absolutely.
Or maybe make an excuse for, or kind of like future-proof yourself against...
I've had apprentices within recruitment. I mean, to give context, I do apprenticeships in broad area. It just so happened to be that a lot of my vacancies are in the recruitment sector. I've got companies who have pushed the apprentice forward, they've made some of their big key account people aware. We've got an apprentice, this is so and so, they may answer the phone, you may get through to them, and like they've not kind of shielded that apprentice away from the lucrative. They've introduced the lucrative to the apprentice. So actually, when these big account holders who are working with recruitment companies are phoning, they might know the apprentice is going to answer the phone, and it changes the experience the apprentice has. But also,
do you not think then you're kind of putting them in a position where it's like, this is our apprentice, be nice to them?
Well, maybe that's necessary.
In some ways,
people,
why not though?
Yeah, with some people that's probably necessary.
Why not?
Especially
'Cause
taking it back to that point of people who are not ready to join the corporate world and the business world, and are still quite kind of school-minded and are worried about asking to go to the toilet, or didn't realise that they weren't allowed to have their phone on their desk or whatever. Then actually caveating that and letting people know that, look, Paul's the apprentice, and so on and so forth. It kind of comforts, it cushions you from, who was that idiot on the phone? He didn't even know how to use your system. Like, you know what I mean?
Didn't even know to go to the toilet.
I've just wet myself, haven't I? I didn't think I could ask what I was good. No, but I think that's that. The key thing is, if you've got a company that champions it for the right reasons and sees that apprenticeship within their vision. So some of the most successful recruitment apprentices are ones that have grown organically with the business.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been natural progression with coaching, mentoring, and they're evolving with the business. And we've got some that have gone through and they've just ended up just being really good resources. But then you've got some that have developed a resourcing skill, because in the ideal it's 360. Everybody wants a 360, that's all you hear. But instead of trying to get to 360 in one foul swoop and failing, in a lot of cases, people don't make the cut. Why not do it a planned approach, 24 to 30 months, get somebody in, 14 months, I'm going to get a real good resourcer. And as a business, I'm committing that we're going to develop the skill set wider, but actually their fundamental added value is a resourcer. If the business need changes and you change the direction of that apprentice, then what I'd say is you've set them up to fail, because actually that was never the vision.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that comes down to individual businesses and their needs, though, doesn't it? Because if you have capacity to bring on resources, then yeah, why not? Let's get these. But
yeah, some businesses out there that have lost the big account or haven't got the need for a resourcer anymore.
Yeah.
Midway through the apprenticeship, might be like, oh crap, actually we've lost that account, or the tap's dried up.
Mm-hmm.
We need focused flicking to business development. At which point, is it the company that have, like, you know what I mean? Have they set that candidate up to fail?
But
not really.
Recruiters, generally speaking, shy away from BD anyway. A lot of recruiters will shy away from as much BD as possible. And I think if you're bringing somebody in on just resourcing, and then they get introduced after 12, 13, 14 months to BD.
No, I think I absolutely believe it should run parallel. I think their added value comes from the resource role. Mm-hmm. Their development and experience comes from that 20% off the job. So their 20% off the job isn't just chalk and talk. It isn't just assignments. They could literally have one day a week where they're working alongside a business developer. Mm-hmm. It's not the resource role, but they're developing that skill set they're practicing. It doesn't have to just be one day a week. It could be 2 hours a day, or however it looks. It could be more.
Yeah.
But that's where the development comes. Fundamentally, I'm measuring added value based on resourcing, but actually I'm developing a skill set in a planned approach with an apprenticeship in all these areas, in readiness for that step, in readiness for that point when I need them to try that. And then at that point again, what am I hoping to get out of them? Am I hoping for this person to bill X amount by month 6? Or am I hoping that I feel confident that I could put them on the phones and they could probably find me a candidate to place? They could fill 5 temp vacancies. And it's that, what is the expectation of the apprentice?
Generally speaking, we've been quite relaxed, haven't we, with the apprentices that we've had in that, like when Sky first joined us, she was 17 when she first joined us, and you'd excuse kind of certain behaviours because you're like, yeah, I mean, she's still just a kid, don't you, really, to be fair?
Yeah.
And I think if you have that mindset, you almost kind of will look beyond the should she have done that? I mean, if we had a experienced business admin who'd been here, who's been in like 10 jobs, and knows her way around it, and she was having those behaviours. Yeah, she had those competencies. And if those behaviours existed, we'd definitely come down on that a lot harder than what we have with somebody who's an apprentice.
Yeah,
it's the same with kind of. I mean, I suppose when we had other recruitment apprentices, they were brought in as recruiters, and then we put them on the apprenticeship after. We were still a lot firmer with those guys than we were with people that came through the apprenticeship plan.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think, again, it's at what point they're coming in. If they're coming in as a trainee consultant, an apprentice isn't a trainee consultant. An apprentice is before that.
How often do you get people confusing that? Because I'll agree with that. Because a trainee recruitment consultant could be somebody who's a former car salesperson.
Yeah, they've worked in sales for
they've
years.
worked in customer service on the phones for 5 years and decided they want to get into recruitment. Whereas, generally speaking, an apprentice is going to be a school leaver, or very few are career changers. More often than not, they're school leavers, and it's not fair to categorise them as the same as a trainee recruiter. So, how often does that get confused? Because I bet that is probably a sticking point for a lot of people.
I see that as my job to change.
Yeah,
like, if I'm honest, because when you've worked in a certain way in a sector for years, seeing it differently, it's only going to happen if somebody's challenged. Excuse me. I'm going to have some water. Yeah. I'm getting all emotional.
Well, I think that for me, if you're looking at an apprentice recruiter and a trainee recruiter, I think in terms of their experience level, they have to be really on par. If we're bringing in a former car salesperson or an experienced salesperson of some description, I wouldn't. For me, I just wouldn't class that person as a trainee. Mm-hmm. They would fall under that kind of associate branding for me.
Yes,
what about somebody who's worked in
they're a
customer
skilled
service
practitioner that we need to mould into.
Customer service desk, has no sales experience, but is just used to being on the phones and used to speaking to a lot of people. You'd still class that as a trainee. You wouldn't bring them in at any higher than a trainee consultant.
Yeah, I suppose it depends on kind of like somebody who's got 15 years of recruitment experience. If they're coming in at a junior level, yeah, I don't know, maybe.
But I think it's that step back, and that, like I said earlier about planning with your growth. If you've got some businesses which I work with, which say, in 2 years' time, 3 years' time, this is our vision. And I've sat with them and we've looked at those plans and we've gone, okay, so you've got 2 staff here who are currently really good resources and you want to push them forward. So let's sign your current staff up to do a level 3 consultant's qualification. They then move up the desk. If you think about how you've got your senior consultant and that kind of vision, they then move up. It's a bit like a football squad, isn't it? Then where's my weakness? I need to bring people in at the bottom here who I can train.
That's it.
And we're going to put them in a training academy to develop a skill set. So in 12 months' time, I'm ready to get them on the pitch. Not in 12 months' time, I'm looking in the market and I'm searching for somebody. I've got my training academy.
You're not hiring a sub. You're hiring a youth team player. That's the difference, isn't it?
Yeah, love that. I mean, anyone that watches this who knows me will rip me apart if I start talking about football because I know very little. But exactly that.
But yeah. You're not hiring somebody to come in and take that seat today.
Yeah.
You're hiring for that seat.
You're not looking at them going, you're going to get me 25 goals this season.
No.
You're going to put it in the back of the net 25 times. You're saying in 12 months' time, when we've given you all the training, the skill set, the knowledge,
when you're ready to go,
we're gonna bring you on, and you're gonna make an impression because we've given you the effective development.
Would you have the same experience or the same kind of viewpoint of older apprentices then?
Yes.
Because if you go back to your 15 years of customer service analogy,
dependent on their starting point, I'd say if they're coming in as an absolute fresher. Yes.
So if you let's take Nick's 15-year customer service analogy. If you've got 15 years of customer service experience and you've done customer service apprenticeships or you've done a degree and you've just ended up in customer service, and then you decided that okay, well now I'm going to give recruitment apprenticeship a bash. Would that person then still be? Would you still categorise them in the same level of you're an academy player, not a first team player.
And I would, because I think that decision's made by the person that's applying for the position, not the company that's receiving them.
The sheer fact that they're applying for an apprenticeship. Take the girl I interviewed earlier. She's a biomed master's student who's worked in a lab for 6 or 7 years. Experienced, she's married, she's just moving house and all that sort of stuff.
She's professionally mature.
She's matured in that, in her professional life. And I challenged her and was like, well, why are you choosing to go down the apprenticeship route and not applying for trainee positions? If you've got enough of a core skill set, you could go for a junior dev role, or do a 8-week intense coding course, or go through School of Code and all these other things that are set up to kind of for those people. And she made exactly that point, which was, I'm going for the apprenticeship route because that's what I consider myself to be. I'm so green. I don't want to go through a 8-week intense course and be like, I'm ready for a junior dev role, because I'm not.
Yep.
I'm going through the apprenticeship route because I want it to be clear that I am very, very, very green. And whilst I have professional maturity and a skill set that can be translated today, there's a lot more that I want to learn and have to learn before I can competently say that I'm a junior developer.
And I think it's a candidate's decision where they want to put themselves. And the role itself, say an apprentice resource, anything from 14, 16, 17 grand, varied as a wage. Now that apprentice, no matter what age they are, for the first 12 months of their apprenticeship, they could, in theory, be being paid £5.28 an hour. And they would have looked at it and gone, okay, 12 months, that's where I'm going to be. As soon as it goes over 12 months, it has to be national minimum wage based on their age.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But it's that very thing. No matter what you see on their CV, their plan and their vision and what they want to do is come in, green, learn, develop. And I think it is. It's down to the apprentice and the candidate to put themselves where they want to be. But what that doesn't mean is they don't foresee themselves in 24 months' time being up here.
So are we saying then that an apprenticeship is more junior to a trainee? Because of the level of experience that they have, or because of the level of professional maturity that they have?
I think that there's two sides. I think if they're coming in as a mature apprentice, I think it differs to a fresh green apprentice. But fundamentally, it's two people who are wanting opportunities to establish, develop, and line themselves up ready for a career.
I think if you look at the data sets, you'll probably find there is some sort of trend that will show like kind of a steep learn for a professionally mature student or apprentice rather, versus somebody who's kind of still mentally preparing and changing into the working world, and then it probably plateaus for that professional whilst the other one shoots up. It'll be interesting to see kind of like data sets that show the trend, because I'm sure there'll be like pros and cons for either or, right?
And I think apprenticeships as well, they go up in the levels. It's not just entry level. Like you could get somebody.
Yeah, there's like level 7.
Yeah, level 7 apprenticeships.
Can't be that many people doing a level 7 apprenticeship, sure.
Isn't that like some of the IT stuff, isn't it?
That's where your upskill comes. So you've got somebody who's got professional maturity, they've got experience within a business, and they've gone through it. And like, I don't back the government for a lot of things, but one thing I will say is the government will give 95% of the training costs for anybody as a minimum. If it's 16 to 18, they pay 100%. And it's all part of this level up campaign. We've got to move things forward. We've got to upskill the market. So there are people who are doing high-level HR qualifications as an apprentice, and their skill set's there, but they're developing within that. So there's the upskill side for people who want to develop themselves professionally further, but also the green route as well.
Do you think we'll ever get to a point where you see more kind of vocational based, not just vocational, but more sort of academic based apprenticeships? So if you want to be a doctor or a lawyer or something like that, would you reckon
they exist?
They do?
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned the government. Let's talk about the current recent changes in the that they've announced with like graduates and university costs and stuff, and how that ties into where you think the apprenticeship kind of uptake is going to go. And I think I'll put a nice bow on it.
It lends itself to it. So, I mean, in a nutshell, the government are saying that they're going to be paying more tax over long years, and I think I heard them say something like there's going to be some particular degrees where people are going to be paying off when they're 60.
Yeah,
because of the interest.
So to clarify, they are expecting students to now pay. Whereas currently the taxpayer picks up, I think, 46 pence per pound.
Yes,
it's now 19 pence per pound that the UK taxpayer will pick up, meaning the rest 81 is paid by the graduate. And whereas before it used to be 30k was your threshold, you got to earn 30 grand a year before you start paying. It's now 25, absolutely. So it's closer to the national living wage. And it used to be capped at 30 years. After 30 years, your student loans were written off. It's now capped at 40 years, which takes most people through to retirement, which means essentially it's a graduate tax. So you want to go to university, by all means go, and you want the funding to go, by all means do it, but you're going to be paying that back for the rest of your working life.
In answer to your question,
how do you think that's going to impact what you guys do?
I think only positively.
It's got to, right? I mean, let's be honest.
It's already happening at the moment. Within the last 3 years, you've seen the introduction of T-levels. I don't know if you heard of T-levels. So T-level it's almost a hybrid between an A-level and an apprenticeship. So it's
a T-level at trainee level.
Yeah, I think it's called. It comes under trainee, but fundamentally it's. A candidate will do maybe 60% on the job development and 40% academic development, and it's often in skilled disciplines, technical. Yeah, that'd be the one. And that's, I believe, unpaid.
T-levels are equivalent to 3 A-levels.
Wow, so T-level engineering would be equivalent to 3 A-levels. So you do 1 T-level in engineering, for example, then you can technically get enough UCAS points to go off to university should you wish to do so. Yeah, come with UCAS tariff points as well. Interesting. All right, so...
And I think that shift and that drive forward, I think it's going to take a good few years for businesses to, like, some companies are still getting their head around apprenticeships, and they've been around for donkeys. Like I did mine 20 years.
But they've changed a lot though as well.
Yeah.
Again, they used to be for people with like GMVQs, which I joke all the time means stands for generally not very qualified, right? Yeah. And so it used to be for those people who kind of didn't have a hope in hell of actually getting on and picking up a trade or whatever, and then it became very trade heavy. You do an apprenticeship, you want to be a plumber, plasterer, tradie, and that kind of thing. Whereas now it's very much a case of, okay, you don't want to go to university, go and do an apprenticeship.
Yeah.
You know. That seems to be
apprenticeship degrees and all that sort of stuff as well that everyone's pushing. But the problem is though, those sort of things they're so hard to get hold of, right? Because even with the grad tax, right, access to university is still quite easy, right? It's not difficult to find a university to get into. Even if you were scraping by the skin of your teeth, there'll be universities that'll take you. Whereas
the barrier to entry to uni is going to get lower because there'll be less applications, and these guys have still got. I mean, yes, they're academic institutions, but they're still businesses, and they still rely on that funding for people, as in like the students paying to run. Right?
Degree apprenticeships, they're much harder to get because a lot of the talent pool for a degree apprenticeship is way higher, isn't it? I mean, there's a lot more people trying to get that.
Yeah, but let's look at engineering apprenticeships, for example. They can last 5 years, and quite often. For the first year, a company's paying these apprentice engineers for 12 months, and they don't even see them in the business.
Yeah,
that happens, and that's a commitment for a company. They're potentially putting, it might be minimum wage, they could say 15 grand down per apprentice. They've got 10, 150 grand investment in their future workforce.
They do often. Say they. I know. Take Jaguar Land Rover for example. I know Jaguar Land Rover have exactly that model. Love that apprenticeship model. However, they do contractually oblige them to stay with the business for a period of time or pay back a portion of that financial investment. So whilst it sounds on paper great, they're investing in you, they're also kind of it's an intelligent business decision because it's sort of
want to make sure they get their return on it.
We're getting these people in, we're training them in our vision, in our mind, and our quirks in terms of how we want things done. And they get the qualification, they're qualified engineers, and then we keep them for 1, 2, 3 years, knowing that investment will get paid back.
Yeah.
You know, in that sense, so it's a smart way of doing it.
But that's your advanced levels with it, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that goes back to why. Why as a business are they taking them on? You mentioned Jaguar Land Rover. They need to take them on because fundamentally their workforce is evolving, their business is growing. Where's my pipeline? That same model is very easily applicable to recruitment. Where's your pipeline? If you're looking to open a branch down the line, where's my pipeline? Are you open to this? Where's my pipeline? And that initial investment, which is less than you would probably pay someone bringing in as a trainee, which is why it's very much a step before. That investment is pipeline. It's when I get to a point when I need them, I'm planning to get them to where I need to be.
Yeah.
Sometimes they fly early. Like I've probably got over 40 apprentices within the recruitment sector, and that's been something new since late last year till now. We've developed that and it's growing. Some of them fly from the get-go. Others bubble and then grow gradually.
Take a bit of time getting off. Yeah.
Some drop off. Like the same as any workforce. But one company I work with have just opened a branch in Telford, and they're already looking at one of their apprentices to move over there when they complete their apprenticeship and become the next consultant there. So they've got the manager in there, they've got a consultant at the moment.
Which is exactly the sound that you want, really.
And they're going, okay, so this candidate here, they're 9 months into their apprenticeship. We've got another 6 months left. We've just opened Telford. Let's bubble that away, make some noise and build a business. At the point we then need somebody, we move that person there. They've already got another apprentice at the Wolverhampton site, so they can remain there. One's bubbling quicker, so that's the one that's going to get the opportunity. This one will get there, but it might take a little longer. And then now they're saying to me, bring another one in, and we've got another one starting in Telford as a trainee Monday. So that model itself, they're working within their business and strategically building.
But they're building it around the apprentices, aren't they, really, in the sense that they've got, they look at that as, right, we're going to just develop these. Back to your football analogy, that's the academy team that's coming through.
It is. Was it the class of 91? If you look at Man U. 92, So yes, I was just there. My brother will batter me because he's a massive Man U fan. But yeah, like...
and every now and again you get your breakouts like your Wayne Rooney's who's going to score a goal at like 16 years old.
There's no surprise that team went on and achieved the successes they did. And it was because Alex Ferguson and the training team planned that. It wasn't luck. It was luck that the plan came off. Because plans don't always come off. But it was thought through.
Because you look at Gareth Southgate's model when he was the under-21s coach, and actually when the success that he's had, the entire under-21s team that he had when he was the under-21s manager is his current team now.
Yeah.
And those behaviours have been bedded in, and every now and again he just brings one in to work around a lot of senior players, and again his
and it's that level up, isn't it? Like let's mix them with the big boys, and they can develop there, and then the next one will come in.
His philosophy is to have leaders within each group. So he's got a captain of the defenders. He's got one of the midfielders, one of the strikers. So everyone, even the junior players, have got somebody that they can lean on and be like, right, okay, look, I need support with this.
Yeah. Right. So if people want to reach out to you, how do they get in touch with you? What's the best way?
Best way is if you want to drop my details on anything, but LinkedIn. Like LinkedIn. LinkedIn's been a massive thing for me. I think it's a great way of getting in touch with people and putting the product that you're working with there. And there's lots
of numbers on LinkedIn as well, isn't
it? Numbers on LinkedIn.
And geographically, where does Juniper cover?
Anywhere. So if we look at England, we can cover England. The delivery model of it may differ. If you're a company that has multiple branches, then we could look at that. It just might be the difference between remote delivery by the skills coach or face-to-face delivery. Okay. But as far as my service, fundamentally, I think it's free. There's no cost to what I do. until the point you've got an apprentice sat in your business, and even then it's the wage. It's I'm funded as a service. So, yeah, for me, any companies who are just thinking, oh, maybe so, let's just get an advert out there. Let's test the waters. Let's see if we can find someone for you. If we don't, we don't. If we do, fantastic. And I think, that's it. Kind of closing message from me is just give people a shot. Open up opportunities that people open for you.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. Well, appreciate you coming on today, mate.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much for.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.